Welcome to this week's edition of CEO Corner. I'm Otis Rawl, President and CEO of the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce. We thought we'd talk a little bit today about the legislative session as it winds down. The General Assembly will be coming back in 2 weeks to look at conference reports and override vetoes to legislation that's been sent to the governor. Today we have Darrell Scott, our Vice President for Public Policy, talk a little bit about what happened this year, what we got passed, and what we left on the table for next year in hopes that we'll get those bills passed during this 2-year session. So, Darrell, thanks for being here. I know one of the issues that the Chamber has looked at over the last couple of years and was the number one thing on our list was comprehensive tax reform. Tell us a little bit about what happened this year, what the bill looks like, and what we need our people to do to get engaged right now.
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, probably our number one priority this year was getting a tax study commission established here in the state to comprise experts from around the state to come in and look at our state's tax structure. The bill was authored by Senator Leatherman and Speaker Harrell in the Senate and the House. The bill passed out of the Senate. One of the main thing we fought for was to make sure that they looked at a comprehensive approach to the state's tax structure, not just look at sales tax exemptions and then come back and look at everything else. We were able to win that fight on the Senate, and we had to do a little work in the House, but ultimately a bill passed the House and Senate and is now in conference committee. The General Assembly comes back June 16th, and so we're hopeful that the conference committee chaired by Senator Nikki Setzler and Representative Brian White will be able to come to some agreement between the House and Senate versions and get that established this year.
I know one of the most important pieces that's under consideration is professional staff to staff the committee so that you can get independent analysis and reports information coming back in. That's one of the integral parts that hasn't been talked a lot about, but has to be part of the bill. So, moving on, next issue. I know that the economic engine for this state is our ports, and so many jobs are relying on what happens to the port. Pretty good port bill passed this year. Pretty comprehensive approach toward that. So talk a little bit about our port bill and what it does.
Yes, sir. There was a bill authored by Senator Grooms and Senator McConnell early in the session. Obviously, there's been a lot of shakeup at the port with the former president and CEO retiring or resigning earlier in the year. Right now, there's a great search committee established to find a new world-class port CEO. And this bill, I think, helps stabilize what's going on at the port between the board. But it also creates a few things with strategic planning. It ensures that the expansion at Charleston continues on an expeditious timetable, as well as looking to develop the Jasper port. So there's some good things in there. There's also the sale of some land that the Ports Authority owns on some different areas, and that money would revert back to the Ports Authority so that they can continue to help fund the expansions that need to take place here in South Carolina.
Well, I know the governor's anticipating, or we're anticipating the governor vetoing the legislation. I think with the vote in the House, there's enough votes there to override, but Senate may be in question, and maybe we need to get our guys engaged to call their legislators to encourage them to override the veto so we can stay on track with expansion of the port.
Right. When this bill passed the Senate, there was 31 votes, 31 senators who voted in favor of the port restructuring bill. That's just a razor-thin margin to override a gubernatorial veto. So we need to ensure, over the next 2 weeks that our people call their senators and ask them to override the governor's veto. But again, we're continuing to work, and we feel confident that we can override that veto.
Well, I know there's a couple bills that we worked awful hard on that moved through one of the houses and got kind of hung up. Cigarette tax. House gave us a bill that was very business friendly, raising the cigarette tax. Got it over to the Senate. Kind of what happened?
Well, Speaker Harrell did a great job in authoring a bill this year to raise the cigarette tax by 50 cents per pack. Largely, that would be funded through he put in place a program that would allow for small business tax credits and premium assistance for individuals, while at the same time being able to leverage federal matching dollars coming out of Washington. So kind of fit two of the key issues between Republicans and Democrats that we hope to fill. bipartisan vote coming out of the House, 97 votes in favor of the legislation, enough to override a veto. Once it got over to the Senate, again, we got bogged down with how do you spend the monies. A number of senators continue to want to fund an expansion of Medicaid, which can't get through the House and it can't get through a gubernatorial veto. So once again, the bill made it out of Senate Finance Committee with the monies just going into an interest-bearing account and waiting until next year to try to spend the money. But ultimately, that bill did not pass out of the Senate, and it's still on the Senate calendar until next year.
Another bill that's sitting on the Senate calendar is our Save Our Secret Ballot, or Employee Free Choice Act legislation. And a lot of our manufacturers, a lot of our healthcare industry companies are looking at this bill, hoping that we can get it passed so that we can save secret ballot for union elections. So what's going to happen there in the end, do you think?
Well, that's a great bill that we've been working with a lot of our national partners on, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers. But this is a bill that helps combat the Federal Employee Free Choice Act. And what the bill does is it allows for a state constitutional amendment that would protect the rights of workers to cast a secret ballot in union elections. That bill passed out of the House this year with 89 votes, more than 2/3 needed to pass that. Went over to the Senate, slowed down a little bit. It passed out of Senate Judiciary Committee on a 17-2 vote, which is a very strong vote coming out of that committee. We thought we'd be able to get it through the Senate calendar, but unfortunately there's 5 or 6 other contentious issues that kind of dominated it. Senator Ford and Senator Levinas both put their names as objecting to the bill, which ultimately kind of slowed it down. It's still on the calendar. We're very confident it will pass when the session comes back in January. We were hoping to go ahead and get it done this year, but feel very confident we can move that bill forward next year and have it on the ballot for voters in South Carolina in 2010.